reporters he would knows whether tapes exist in the very near future. Those were his words. All this is special counsel Robert Mueller came to Capitol Hill today to meet with top members of the House Intelligence Committee. Anyway, that's going on now. For more, I'm joined by MSNBC national security analyst Jeremy Bash and Julie Edwards-Ansley of Reuters. You know, I sometimes say to myself when I get up in the morning, the biggest news today, like all days in the last 6 months, is that Donald Trump was elected president. That is still the biggest incredible news. And the behavior he follows makes it even more incredible every day. He's out there saying, I'm sorry, I can't blame, I don't even know Spicer, but I don't blame him for not being able to interpret what the president is saying when it doesn't make any sense what the president is saying. How can you interpret nonsense? Seriously.
Well,
I mean, because here's the problem. If he doesn't believe 17 intelligence agencies on this, and he was running around saying Obama was some sort of legal immigrant for about 8 years, what basis does he have in reality? Does his feet ever touch the ground when it comes to real fact?
And the intelligence community is based in fact, and they have to present facts to the commander-in-chief to defend the country. But basically, the president has tweeted himself into a corner. Because if he acknowledges that Russia has been a threat and is a threat, then basically he is going to give credence to the argument that he fired Comey to get rid of that investigation. And so it really...
No, well, the investigation in Russia is already complete. They know the Russians were involved. The question is, did he, Trump, or his campaign people collude with the Russians?
That's right. But if he gives credence to that idea that Russia was a threat and that cooperating with them was dangerous to American national security, which of course it was, then his firing of Comey looks all the worse.
Well, let's talk about stonewalling, okay? Because stonewalling is an old practice. The Nixon people, you just deny everything all the time. So his lawyer, Sekulow, was on Meet the Press and the other shows on Chris Wallace this weekend, and he just denied everything. He denied everything. There was an investigation of Trump. There's no investigation. And then he finally stupidly admitted twice that there was one, but he was mainly with talking points. So Trump denies, or at least Sean says Trump doesn't admit, now he admits there was a Russian influence in the campaign, or an attempted influence. And now we have the lawyer, Sekulow, saying, I don't believe Trump's under investigation. Deny, stonewall, and somehow reality will conform to that in the 30% that still trust Trump. Will buy that the 30% will buy the nonsense.
Well, that's why it's so hard these days to be a spokesperson for the president. As we saw this weekend, like you said, with Jay Sekulow, he's trying to come out and say the president is not under investigation, but he's having to go up against a tweet from the president saying, I am under investigation. These people are really put between a rock and a hard place, either by denying what their boss has said or by confirming things that are negative. And we're seeing Spicer try to crawl away from that.
It is what a job it is. I don't know what it is, because is he actually supposed to, without cracking a smile, refer to these tapes that nobody believes exist?
Well, he'd get fired, Chris. I mean, he can't step out of line. But it's worse for a lawyer. It's worse for Jay Sekulow because he's an officer of the court and the court of public opinion. And you've got to tell the truth. And once his credibility is undermined...
He's also a mouthpiece.
Well, but,
I'd say just about anything.
But if he holds himself out there as an attorney for the president of the United States and he just states misstatements, then that is really going to undermine his credibility in the presidency.
Well, anyway, we don't have to live in the unreality world of that universe over there. The White House continues to tease a, quote, announcement soon on whether tapes exist of the president's conversation with James Comey. If that sounds familiar, it fits a pattern with Donald Trump, going back to his birther nonsense in 2011. Just to get Trump in your vision again, to clear the focus, watch this performance.
I have people that actually have been studying it, and they cannot believe what they're finding.
You have people now down there searching, I mean, in Hawaii?
Absolutely, and they cannot believe what they're finding.
Well, I mean, everybody knows there was nobody down there in Hawaii. There's nobody saying they couldn't believe what they're finding. And he's trying to talk, and there's a person, an anchor woman, trying to talk sense to a person who's making no sense and just making it up.
Well,
nobody believes he sent investigators down there. Nobody believed.
But people believed at the time, and they may believe him now. He's trying to sow the birthers,
sure. Nobody else believed.
But he's trying to sow a seed of doubt into people's minds, just like he's trying to undermine the investigation of Bob Mueller. We're going to see people start to bring up whether or not Mueller has a conflict of interest because of his time at WilmerHale. WilmerHale, of course, representing some of the people who are now under investigation, like Kushner. It is all about not necessarily coming out with hard evidence, but just enough to undermine another fact that may be negative against them.
This is what is supposed to be balanced news reporting. On the one hand, President Obama says he's an American born in this country. He was born in Hawaii. On the other hand, Trump says he wasn't. We want to make sure we're fair and balanced here. That's the nonsense of balance. Anyway, Republican allies of the president are pushing back hard against the ongoing investigation of the Trump campaign's ties to Russia. Devin Nunes, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, remember him, midnight ride down to the EOB? He's telling donors in California this weekend that the Russian collusion story is made up. Quote, I was telling the truth. There was never any collusion between Donald Trump and the Russians. We have to stop chasing Russian ghosts around the closet and actually get to real work. While other Republicans echoed that thinking, let's watch.
You have to question the entire special investigatory process that brings in these headhunters who are very high-powered lawyers. They're not going to leave until they get somebody.
This has now become like Russia, Trump, conspiracy, birther conspiracies, you know, sort of truthers.
Listen, this is all a political circus at this point. Democrats and sadly much of the liberal media are using this as an excuse just to attack the president. They want this president to fail. They want the administration to fail.
What a hoot. Did you just hear Hannity? He just compared it to birtherism. In other words, the nonsense of is now a standard for nonsense, even though it was Trump himself he was defending.
It's a great clip, and this is not...
Doesn't he know that that was Trump's, that was his birtherism? And doesn't Hannity keep a file cabinet? This is Trump's crap. This isn't somebody else's. It's amazing.
No, he doesn't know. And of course, it's not a Democratic hoax. These are 3 federal investigations, one led by the FBI, one led by a Republican chairman in the Senate, one led by a Republican committee in the House. These are not the inventions of Democrats. These are 3 professional investigations of serious misconduct and threats to national security.
Let's talk about some reality here. First of all, Sheldon Whitehouse, a very calm senator from Rhode Island, suggests today that Michael Flynn possibly made a deal with the FBI that he's already flipped. Let's watch.
I think there's a fairly good chance, just reading the tea leaves here, as a former U.S. attorney, that Michael Flynn is already cooperating with the FBI. It would be consistent with, first of all, that they've got him dead to rights on the false statement that he gave to the FBI in the White House, but then that business of going back and cleaning up his Foreign Agent Registration Act filing retroactively, his unaccustomed silence for months, the Eastern District of Virginia subpoenas all being kind of one hop away from Michael Flynn, that all suggests that he's already in play.
I would think, Joey, that he is definitely in play for the simple fact we got new evidence today that not only did he deal with the Turks, not only did he deal with the Russians, but he go and gave that speech. He's getting money from the Turks. Now he's getting money on some fandango over in Saudi Arabia where he's putting nuclear power over there, and he didn't report that. He hasn't reported anything. 3 strikes, you're out with this guy. And what is it, a bad memory? It's like Sessions' memory? I don't remember.
Right. Well, I mean, I've talked to people who are in this space, people who represent either people from foreign countries or foreign governments. And they say it is a no-brainer that you file a disclosure.
What's the downside of being honest?
Or a disclosure. Well, the downside of being honest is if you're trying to then enter an administration and get a security clearance, these things could be against you. So
but why not just say the truth and then you won't get into any trouble?
That would be a simpler way to do it. I agree. I can't go back and read his mind, but I think what White House said today made the hair stand up on a bunch of necks at the White House, because if they can get Flynn to flip, they're looking like they could be in some trouble too if he has people to turn on.
I think he thought they were going to lose the election. He wanted to cash in while he still had some cachet.
Wow.